Okay, Russ, hit it.
Hit it. Okay, I know many of you in the room and on Zoom have heard a number of Charlie's presentations. I'm like Ron, I have not seen this one, and I like milk, especially with Barb's chocolate chip cookies. So many of you may know that I also, every other ops have a milk train run. So I'm very much interested in this. So uh, Charlie, thank you for being with us today, and I'll let you take it away.
Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, here we go. A milk can goes to market. Hopefully. There we go. We got two milk cans saying here, the big milk cans. You'll notice that these were over at the Bluegrass Railroad Museum. The one has a diamond on them. The one has a rectangle on them. Actually, both cans have a diamond and rectangle. Diamond reads Tri-State Butter Company, Cincinnati, Ohio. The rectangle has a number on. It's the registration number of the can. The next, it tells how it's going to be shipped. This is going to be shipped by the L&N and the Kentucky Central. It's the guy who's shipping it is C.D.C. Drake. It's going to be shipped from Frankfort, Kentucky. And Mr. Drake's post office is in Versailles, Kentucky. Now, the average cow produced 8,000 pounds of milk per year. And this provides 360 pounds of butter. For every pound of butter produced, two byproducts result. 18 pounds of skim milk, 3 pounds of buttermilk. In 1920, and this is the year we're going to be looking at, the United States produced 1,800,000 pounds of butter, 4 million pounds of buttermilk, and 24,000 pounds of skim milk. Creameries provide the railroad with reverse loads, and the railroads less love creameries because you got milk flowing in and you got empty cans going back to the farmer. You're shipping out finished product of butter, buttermilk, and skim milk, and you got coming into the creamery the packaging that you're going to put the butter, the buttermilk, and skim milk in. So basically, you got loaded boxcars coming in and loaded boxcars going out. It's not like coal cars that leave the mine empty and come back. Leave the mine loaded, come back empty. Here you almost got a 50% load capacity of your cars being loaded or unloaded. You got some small problems with the type of cars, but it was a good business for the railroads. In 1920, Kentucky had 10,000 plus dairies across the state. Tobacco hadn't quite taken over yet. We still got the tobacco wars going on, and Congress hasn't put in the tobacco support program. They're producing cream for sale. And here's a view of the dairies across Kentucky. Pretty well, every county's got a good dairy farm. Each state, as you can see, is 2,000 herds of cows. So we got them all over the state. Charlie Kastner got this for me. L&N Industrial and Freight Shippers Directory, 1914, 1915. And this were the creameries listed in the L&N directory. These are on the L&N line. You got creameries on the IC, the C&O, and the Southern, or the C&O and TP. Nashville, Chattanooga, and St. Louis. I guess I should throw in two, and a couple of short lines. But anyway, pretty dense number of creameries across the state. In the L&N magazine, Charlie found these for me. Railroad factors and locating milk plants. So this is within the L&N Employees magazine. showing how important this is. I think this is from 1930. Here's another one from the magazine. Bowling Green, a dairy center. Never thought of Bowling Green being a dairy center. But it is amazing when you start looking around the state at the large creameries and the small creameries that used to once overrun this state, which all sort of disappeared when we moved to a tobacco culture. A herd of 4 to 6 cows would produce enough milk that the farmer could daily ship to the creamery. The creamery paid once or twice a month. This is very important. When you planted your crops and you sold them, you got paid once. That was one time a year. And you had to budget that money to last you till the next time the crops were sold. But the creamery paying you once or twice a month meant that you had some money flying in. So Tri-State paid on the basis of the can's butterfat comment. Local creameries paid set price for a can of cream. Money from the cream allowed you to buy coffee and other luxury goods year round. You've heard the term egg money. There used to also be the term milk money. We got a lot away from our rural culture. I can remember when I was a kid, the term being milk money being said, which I didn't quite understand. Egg money, I sort of understood, but you don't hear people saying that anymore. However, you do hear people talk about, I don't even know if they talk about having an egg nest anymore for their money. A cream can held 40 quarts and weighed 80 pounds when full. So they were a little heavy to move. Cream cans were more in passenger train service. Cream and milk cans traveled in cars with BM or BMR designations. So if you look this up in your catalogs of cars, the milk cars have BM or BMR on them. BMR being refrigerated. Tri-State had contractors who picked up the cream every day or every other day. That is if you weren't located on a rail line. Now, the freight agent at the depot, he ensured that cans were kept in the shade until 10 minutes before the arrival of the train. They were kept on the north or the west side of the depot. If you ever noticed those pictures of the depot with the milk cans, they're up against the depot in the shade, and they're on the north or west side. In hot weather, they placed ice shavings on the lids of the cans. I grew up in Newport, Kentucky, on Oak Street, 7th and Oak. At 9th and Park, 9th and Linden, 1 block up and 2 blocks up was the Newport Ice House. And I can remember as a kid going up there, picking ice up off the ground, wiping it off in the summertime and sucking on it. But they had a siding in there coming off the C&O railroad tracks, and they would put refrigerator cars in there. Now, they're not loading the ice down the ice chutes on the side, but they're loading 6-foot tall, I assume they are, or 4-foot tall cakes of ice into this refrigerator cars. And I had wondered about that. What you're doing is Newport had an ice house, but Maysville, Dover, Augustus, Foster, and the other places along the line did not have ice houses. And what you have in the summertime is the railroad moving kegs of ice to the depots so that the station agent could put ice on the kegs. They're also going out there to go to the local general store. Don't get me wrong. I don't know if any of you guys are old enough to remember the bathtubs, I'll call them metal containers in the general store that would be loaded with soft drinks and beer in the summertime so they're cold. That's how the ice got to them. Here's a number of milk cans. The ones with the depression in the lid, that's to put ice in. Okay. We're now going to follow a milk can from the farm to the creamery. Okay, guys, remember when you were in kindergarten? I assume some of you were in kindergarten. Head Start. You were told to lose your imagination. You're going to have to use a lot of imagination as we go through this. Please use your imagination. Okay, we're going to follow a milk can from Versailles to Frankfurt, to Lexington, to Paris, and then up to Cincinnati. From Versailles to Frankfurt, it's going to move by Kentucky Traction and Terminal. It's then going to run on an L&N local train from Frankfurt to Lexington. It's then going to move from Lexington to Paris by L&N on a sectional train, and that's going to move by L&N from Paris to Cincinnati on a milk train, a passenger train that's going to stop at every depot. Here's the milk can we're going to follow. It's number 175180. It's going to move by the L&N and the Kentucky Central. Okay, as you know, the track from Cincinnati that the L&N ran on all the way down to Livingston, down to Sinks, was the Kentucky Central for many years before the L&N took it over and then merged it into them. The can is, of course, owned by C.C. Drake. He's shipping it from Frankfort, Kentucky, but he actually lives over in Versailles. Here's the Kentucky Traction and Terminal Interurban. It was in existence from 1911 to 1934. It ran from Lexington out to Nicholasville, over to Versailles, up to Frankfurt, to Georgetown, and up to Paris. Its depot in Lexington was across the street from the Fountain Park in downtown Lexington. Here's their schedules. Nicholasville to Lexington, Versailles, and Frankfurt. See if I can back up one. Okay, they had one run that was Georgetown, Lexington to Paris. And then the other run was Nicholasville, Lexington, Versailles, and Frankfurt. It's one company, but they got a through service like that. There's our schedule. And once again, here we are. The diamond is where our farm is. That's where I put it. It's going to come into Frankfurt on the red. And it follows, I call it Versailles Road. If you're in Versailles, you call it Frankfurt Road. Swings down Main Street to the depot, which was located at Lewis and Main Street. It then goes over to Broadway at Ann and Broadway, where it's loaded on the L&N train and leaves town on the blue line. Here's our dairy farm. I said, use imagination, guys. Use imagination. There are contented cows. There they are coming up to the barn where they're going to be milked. Another view of the barn with the cows there, getting ready to go in and be milked. There they are inside. They're in their stalls, eating a little bit, getting ready to be milked. Here they are being milked. The milk has been put in cans, and they've dropped it into this spring water to keep them cool. You don't want your milk to get warm. You want to keep it cool. So they got this bathtub that they're filling with water to keep cool. This is the type of bathtub I remember as a kid being at the general store where you have your soft drink and beer in, filled with ice. Hey, I grew up in Newport, Kentucky. Nobody carded you. You could be as young as 5 years old and come and buy beer. You just said you were getting it for your dad. Who cared? Our farmer's milking his milk can from the dairy barn up to the side of the road so the interurban can pick it up. We are now up at the, this is actually Paris Pike, but we're up at the road. We're at 19, roughly 10. We got our main highway on the next side, crushed stone. And then we got our track here. We're looking towards Paris, actually, in this picture. But for purposes here, we're looking towards Frankfurt. And our dairy farmer's on the left, and he's pushing his cart up this little road, and he's going to come out that gate on the left to drop him off for the interurban to pick up. Aha! And our interurban car is stopped there at the end of the driveway. They're picking up the milk, and they're loading it on the interurban car to take into Frankfurt. Oops. There the guy is, loading the milk can on. Aha! It's been a little warm. So our farmer took his can and he wrapped it in burlap and he soaked the burlap in water. This is keeping the can cool as the water evaporates off the burlap. This is an actual Kentucky Traction and Terminal freight motor used for moving dairy products. They had one of these. The Kentucky Traction and Terminal was known as the Bluegrass Route. It ran in the bluegrass, right? Okay. It's actually at Elmendorf Farm in this picture. We're actually now looking towards Frankfurt. On the left is the interurban. By the way, if you ride the road from Frankfurt to Versailles, US 60, and you get over at Ashford Stud, look on the right-hand side of the road, and you see shelves cut up there in the right-hand side of the road, above the road. That was the old interurban right-of-way. And when you get to Ashford Stud, there's a gatehouse there. That was the waiting room for the interurban. So there's still signs of the interurban route from Frankfurt to Versailles. It's all been destroyed from Versailles on into Lexington. We're in downtown Frankfurt. We're at Ann and Main Street. There is a Y there, and the car is pulled forward, back down, and it's now pulled out in the Y to go up one block to Lewis Street to reach the interurban station. This is all one of the old wooden cars. This is a Cincinnati curbside car. This was the Kentucky Traction and Terminal was the first one to use Cincinnati curbside cars, which became the standard for steel cars. And you notice below the windows, there's sort of a bead coming, running the length of the car. They had a curve here, and they found that by curving the steel, they could make the steel thinner, but still have the same strength. So these were called Cincinnati curbside cars, made by the Cincinnati Car Company. And this became very popular in the 1920s, one-man instead of two-man cars, and saved the interurbans for another 10 to 15 years. We're at the interurban station on the right. In the back of us was the Capitol Hotel, now Whitaker Bank. The interurban station still stands, but it's a vacant building now. It was a travel office for a number of years. Here's our interurban car being offloaded inside the interurban station. Notice the milk cans. In the back, the building in the back of the interurban station, on the right, modified heavily, is the Frankfurt Union Terminal, called the Union Terminal because it was used by the Chesapeake and Ohio, Louisville, Nashville, Frankfurt, and Cincinnati, and for a short time by the Kentucky Highland Railroad. There's our schedule. Notice it stops at every depot along the way. It's the milk run, called the milk run because it stops at every depot to pick up a can of milk or drop off an empty. We're going to leave Frankfurt on train 64 at 10:10 a.m. We're going to run the red line from Frankfurt over to Lexington. Map of Frankfurt. I know there's the depot right there. Come up here. Here, coming down here is the way that the Kentucky Traction Terminal came down. There's the Kentucky Traction Terminal Depot. There's the railroad depot, and they're going to leave by coming out through the tunnel and out along this green line. By the way, that's the old Frankfort and Cincinnati right away running out there. There's our station agent getting the milk cans ready to load them aboard the train. He's got them on the baggage car, ready to back up and load them aboard the train. He's done this all within the past 20 minutes because he's kept them in the shade up to this point. Aha! Hey, we already got a can on board the train. It's number 14397. It's by Elmer Bryant from Shelbyville on the way to Cincinnati. Whoa, we got another can that's getting on board the train. It's from Frankfort, from Paul Kretcher. Aha, they've been loaded on board the train. Remember, we're using our imagination. Notice that there's been ice put on top of the cans to keep them cool. We're pulling from the depot. We're going to be heading straight ahead through the tunnel, under the arsenal. There's the picture today. For those of you who don't know, the depot is owned by the Kentucky Highway Association. We're on the other side of the tunnel looking back. I think you guys all know this, but I'm going to tell you this again. There is no colored photography in this day. It's a black and white photo that's been sent to Germany, been hand colored. So if you as a model have been trying to match that color on that color of that boxcar on that postcard, it's what a German guy in Germany thought was the color of the boxcar. I like this, the people walking through the tunnel. Operation Lifesaver would have a fit, walking through the tunnel. On the left-hand side, you can't see it, of the people staying there, is a spur track in which they would sometimes keep a pusher to help getting up Jet Hill. We've gone out a little bit. Daniel Boone's grave is on top of the hill. That was Springs Hill Distillery, all gone now. That's a Chesapeake and Ohio train going through there. The FFV, Fast Flying Virginian. We got over to Jet. We've come up out of Frankfort. That's where Georgetown Road and Versailles Road joins together. And we've come out to Jet here. The depot's gone. I couldn't find any picture. R.J. Corman uses this as a storage area. It's double track here. It's a passing track. Our next station is Duckers. Right about here. This is interstate going across here. Duckers. What was the movie? Natalie Wood, Jack London, Tony Curtis, The Great Automobile Race. The word Jack
The Great Race.
London gets in his rocket power car and takes off. That's filmed here. They use some creative stuff to block this out and then just make this the depot, which it was the depot. There we are, loading some milk cans aboard our train. I said, use imagination. Our next stop is Springs Station. Over here. There's our train roaring past Springs Station. Aha, we're picking up a can of milk over here. LL Portland, Springs Station, Kentucky. L&N in Kentucky Central. There's our Mr. Quetcher, who brought the milk there in his truck, knows the milk cans in the back of his truck. He must have quite a dairy here. There's the station. It's still there today. It's been converted to a private residence. There's the freight depot up there. And there is the freight depot today. I'm going to back up one. We're going to go over here with our next picture. Going the wrong way. Does anybody know what this is? This is Southern Pacific Railroad corporate headquarters from the 1890s to the 1940s. Corporate headquarters. Don't tell me that their office building is in Dallas. Yeah, their office building's in there. It's the corporate headquarters. If you're sending an official document to Southern Pacific, this is where it went, because Southern Pacific was a Kentucky corporation. And it was a Kentucky corporation till I think it's 44, when some stupid lawyer decided that Southern Pacific and the other corporations in Kentucky should be paying taxes on their full profit, not just the money they made raised in Kentucky. And when they forced this through, the next year they all left Kentucky and went to Delaware. You got to love politicians at times. Anyway, be quiet. We're on our way over to Midway. Midway here. This was the Versailles and Midway line that went to here. Southern Railroad buys it and extends it on up to Georgetown. This is the L&N C&O line coming through Midway. As you know, Midway was the first town built by a railroad in the United States. It's the McKee block, and we'll talk about Mr. McKee in a second. There's the depot. No longer there. No, that's not the depot. That was a bank building, but it's not a bank building anymore. It's some sort of office building. And there's the caboose back there that Mr. Corman painted in the Corman colors. This is the McKee Monument, McKee Bluff. McKee was the engineer and one of the owners of the Lexington, Ohio Railroad. He's second in command of 2nd Kentucky, and he, with the commanding officer of the 2nd Kentucky, Henry Clay Jr., are killed at the Battle of Buena Vista, Mexico. They are both buried in the Frankfort Cemetery, and this is the monument to McKee, trackside in Midway. Next depot is Payne's Depot. Over here, Easttown Road, Payne's Depot. This was the siding here. Those of you who watched the Flim Flam Man, the opening scene of the Flim Flam Man was filmed here. Corman took this out, and now the ties are gone, and you can hardly tell there was a siding there. Aha! But we are loading some milk here. Yarlton. We're over by the narco farm. Well, it ain't the narco farm anymore. It's the Federal Correctional Institution. There's Yarlton. There's the depot with its siding. And there it is today. Depot's long gone. Philly. This was when the election in Ohio was first opened. This was the end of the line out here. And they had a bar tavern out here to go out to and visit. There's the Veterans Hospital, Leestown campus. Aha! Got a train running through, carrying our milk to market. We've come into Lexington. The depot is down here. This is our rail line coming in from Frankfort. This is the C&O line coming down here, the purple. This line going off here is the Lexington Eastern. It's taken out roughly 1940. The green line is the Louisville-Nashville line going out. The one that runs over to 99 is the track to Winchester. The one by 98 swinging north is up to Paris. Now, I only found this out a few years ago. I didn't realize this, but the track swinging around Lexington, the loop track, is owned by the Chesapeake and Ohio Railroad. and you go over to Corman's Yard and you see that connecting track that goes up the Southern Railroad track, Norfolk Southern now. Actually, the good C&O, Cincinnati, New Orleans, and Texas Pacific. That ain't anymore, I guess. That was all C&O track. The L&N did not have a connection with the Southern here. If the L&N wanted to interchange a car, this is what I was told, they had to bring it down to the C&O yard, hand off to C&O, and then the C&O could bring it back. Strange, but it's railroad stuff. There's the old depot in Lexington, torn down. There's the new depot in Lexington. The general waiting rooms here, colored waiting rooms here, and the RPO and baggage room is over here. And this was office space up here. And there it is today. They tore it down in the 1950s for use as a garage. Looking down Lexington, that's the courthouse, the Kentucky Traction Terminal, streetcar line here. And back here is the depot. I tossed this one in because here's the night scene as the artist views it. Oops, let's go back. Yeah, as an artist drew it up, it's a daytime photo that some artist turned into a night photo. Okay, we're going to leave Lexington on train number 36, and we're going to be running the green from Lexington up to Paris. We're going to come out over here by 97, swing up, and at 98, we're going to swing north. Going the wrong way. We're coming out from the depot down here where the smoke is, coming up and around. It's a C&O train going to Frankfurt. We're going to come down here and underneath the track. This is all owned by Corman now. We're at the back of the Lexington Cemetery looking down. We've come up and out of Lexington. The line that Corman runs now over to Winchester comes up here and swings here. The trees here mark the old line that the L&N used to get to Paris. They abandoned that about 1952. This is the Elmendorf farm. It's actually over on Paris. I just stuck it in to show you a large dairy farm in Kentucky. A view of it. They advertised throughout the country. You saw the refrigerated motor car up here. Okay, our first stop heading north is Hutchinson. There's the right of way here, now a private road. And this was the depot, general store depot. It's now 2 apartments. We've come up to Paris. Okay, here's the main line coming up from Lexington. Here's the abandoned line from Winchester. This is the line from Winchester coming up. Here's the abandoned line from Lexington coming in. And here's the Frankfurt and Cincinnati line coming in. And about here is where TTI, I still call it TTI. I think it's the Midwest and Bluegrass or something like that, over to Maysville. Once again, a picture there of the Lexington line coming, the Winchester line, Frankfurt and Cincinnati coming in. And we don't quite show the line swinging off to Paris. There is the Paris Depot before it was remodeled. This track here was TTI track. I'm going to call it TTI, guys. This was the L&N track over here. It was dual track over here. They've taken the one track out. There's our train coming in from Lexington. We're now going to run the red line up to Cincinnati. Once again, back to map view, but we're coming up into here. The train from Lexington's come up. It's dropped off its car. The train from Corbin coming up is going to pull in, and we're going to attach those cars onto the rear of the train going on to Cincinnati. View of the depot then. The view of the depot now. It's a restaurant, Bourbon Place restaurant. Fairly good food, good bourbon, some beer. And you can see where the track used to run next to the depot. So I said CSX took the one track out, one track in, and this was TTI track. We're leaving Paris, heading north. I got to keep my Stoner's Creek. We're crossing Stoner's Creek here, heading north. Notice the telltale up there. We're now crossing Houston Creek, heading north. And Kaiserton is our first stop. Here it is on the map. And I don't have a picture of the depot, but that's where the depot was. We're standing on top of one of the few remaining L&N wooden trestle bridges that's still in use in Kentucky. Milepost marker there. So if you get a chance, go up there if you want to go over one of the few remaining wooden L&N trestle bridges in Kentucky. Aha, and we're loading some milk cans here. Shana is our next stop as we run north. Located here. The guy has saved the sign off the depot, put it up on his barn. This was an L&N section house here. There's our cheerful farmer having brought milk into the depot on his truck. And this is where the depot was located. There, being our next stop, 340. You see, we're slowly making our way north. Right here. Cynthiana is about right above the 69. There's a drawing of the depot or diagram of that. Notice general waiting room, Negro waiting room, agent's office with the window to serve both, baggage room, and freight room. Notice there's no facility room. There's an outhouse up here. Actually, there's two of them up here. One marked white and one marked colored. Back in 1966, I think it is, I'm working for the Commonwealth of Kentucky. They send me down to Hickman, Kentucky. That's at the far end of the state. I got down there, parked my car, walked into the courthouse. I was thirsty. And I walked over the water fountain and grabbed a drink. And the hell descended upon me, people shouting at me, cursing at me, telling me to get away from that water fountain. And what I had done, I've drunk water out of the colored water fountain. Anyway, the Laird Depot sat here. In 1864, the passenger trains coming down through here, and my mind is shut down. Montgomery Briggs, Montgomery Blair's on the train. Postmaster General of the United States. The train is stopped by Confederate guerrillas who go on board the train and rob everybody. Amazingly, nobody rats on Montgomery Blair that he's Lincoln's Postmaster General. And the Confederates do not know who they've just been robbing. Interesting. Aha! But we load some milk cans here. And we do have a postcard that somebody grabbed and wrote, "Greetings from Lair, Kentucky." Cynthiana being our next stop, 347. Train coming into Cynthiana. Over here is the fairgrounds. Every county seat has a fairgrounds. They all had horse racing in the olden days. Beer on sale. Oh, well. We're coming into Cincinnati. Down here is Licking. which I should have mentioned. This was their poor farm down here. All counties in the olden days had a poor farm. And as I was a kid, my grandmother always told me, make sure I save some money so that when I got old, I didn't have to go to the poor farm. That was where people without money, the homeless went. I think we need poor farms again to house the homeless. Anyway, we're coming up to Cynthiana. There's the depot in Cynthiana. We're loading milk cans at the depot. Depot site today. This is a spur going off to a switch. The depot was back here. Nothing left of it. We are up at the bridge across the creek, and my mind is just shut down on me. Train going over the trestle. Why can't I remember the name of the trestle? But anyway, in 1864, part of the Battle of Cynthiana's Keller's Bridge. John Hunt Morgan has moved in and captured Cynthiana, defeating the Home Guard and burnt half the town. A regiment of guys who've been in the U.S. Army for roughly a week are sent down by train. They come down by train, they offload, they're in a horseshoe. Morgan's guys launch an attack and capture them. The guns are all useless that the Union guys are organized with. Morgan gets cocky and throws in a battle line facing north because he understands there's another train of Union's guys coming back. Fortunately for us, I'm sorry, I'm a Yankee. Butcher Burbridge, General Burbridge, is chasing Morgan, comes riding in from the east and rolls up Morgan's line, defeating him and running him out of the state. Anyway, he didn't want to know that. There's the trestle. Poindexter going on up the track. Was a small little community back in the days. There was the depot, agent's car, loading our milk on the train, and there it is today. This is where the depot was. This road has now been chained off for some reason, so you can't get up here anymore. This is all that's left of Poindexter over there. It was double track at one time. Robinson, our next town up the track. Once again, this was a small community. Loading our milk on. There at our depot. And this is the depot site. This was the general store. The white building over here closed. And there's about 3 houses left. There's this big barn here, which was the tobacco barn. But this is all that's left of these little towns. But they did sell a greeting card. Barry's our next stop. A smaller community setting here on the Licking River. There's our depot. Hey, I go with the photographs I can find. They're not always good. They're not always great, but they're something. This is where this is where the depot was. This track is now gone. They took it out. That's the post office over there. The Kentucky River is about 100 yards off to the left. That's their recycling center there on the left. Going to be our next stop at 418. Once again on the Licking River. This is where the depot was. This was really a community at one time. 2 dogs have turned out to see us. I think it's this track that's gone. That was the general store there. That was the school there. The church was there. Going the wrong way. Morgan's our next town, located once again up against the river. These were all river towns we've been looking at. The Licking was sort of navigable at certain times of the year. And in the 1840s, the state of Kentucky, the Commonwealth of Kentucky, was actually going to build locks and dams all the way up the Kentucky River to West Liberty. They started on Lock and Dam 1 down at Covington, but they ran out of money. Okay. At one time, a steamboat actually got up to Cynthiana. They used to occasionally get them up to Falmouth and Morgan, but not that often. Anyway, beside the point. Our railroad coming through town. The depot was here, and this was part of the depot. It was the federal building in the town. But it burnt. It was the post office there. So it's gone now. Once again, the large tobacco warehouse. This was the general store. It's gone. There's basically nothing here. Falmouth being our next town moving north. 440 coming in. Or we're leaving at 440. I love this. The water stand with kids sitting on the track. Operation Lifesaver would not be happy with that. Our depot on this side. Our general store and hotel on this side. Here it is today. Depot's gone. We got a siding back down here that holds an occasional tank car. The bridge across the river is right behind me. There's the tank cars down there. Oh, I just tossed this in because I thought it was neat. There was times when banks actually issued money. We're up at Butler, again on the river. The Butler Depot. The depot sat here. There is a Butler. General store still here. The bank's still here. And the post office still here. And there's an online customer down here who uses covered hoppers. Morning View, our next stop. Our depot here. You can't see it, but there's actually milk cans there. The depot site here. Latonia. We're coming up from the south, up the track. The green line coming in from the left is the track to Louisville. The green there was the Latonia yard. The track off the right leads to Wilder, Newport, and to Cincinnati. Now, the L&N Depot, before they put in Cut Depot, was over here. And so our train, this is the Coursey down here. So our train's going to come up, swing to the right, and go over the bridge, the Licking River, through Wilder and Newport, across the bridge into Cincinnati, and go to the Pennsylvania Depot. It's not going up this way. It's going this way. Aerial view. So we're coming up from the bottom. We're going to swing to the right and follow this track over here. If we came up and swung to the left, we'd go on down the short line or the LCL to Louisville. The track swinging here goes up to Cincinnati. There used to be a track here, but it's long gone. There's the Latonia Depot. There it is today, these bungalows. We are looking north, the track to Louisville, swinging to the left, track to Wilder to the right. There's the bridge across the Licking River. I drove back here in my wife's Tahoe, and she's having a bloody fit with me. We're getting mud all over the car. We're going to get stuck back here. And I said, we bought the Tahoe because it's four-wheel drive with off-road stuff so we could go back in places like this. Well, at least that was my idea. That wasn't her idea of what the car was for. But anyway, we're looking over to Wilder. We're coming up this way through the big steel mill, which is now shut down. Up here, there was a steel mill on up here, but we're going to swing this way to the right, up to here, down Saratoga, over to Cincinnati. Okay. We bypass Wilder. This is the Anderson rolling mill. It's all gone. We've swung up C&O main line here. The L&N track over here where the locomotive is, it's going to go up here way and swing across the C&O track. This is the wagon bridge. If you're in Newport and they say, take the wagon bridge, it's now a concrete bridge. It's the wagon bridge. And new people in town go, wagon bridge? What's the wagon bridge? That's the wagon bridge. Now up here is a pedestrian crossing here. It leads from here over to an elementary school. CSX in its wisdom took this out because they know the kids are going to walk all the way around. No, there's a path down the hill, across the tracks and over the school. I don't know. You wonder at times. We are now up at where the L&N cross from right to left. They're crossing. Looking straight ahead, we're looking at Ashland. This is NX Tower here. In back of it, you can see the Newport Depot and Saratoga Street's off here. This is a connecting track, and that's a connecting track. This is the L&N connecting track over here. This was my playground when I was a kid. This is where I played. Up in the tower, in the depot, riding in the caboose. What the heck? Anyway, we're looking back the other way. That was the pedestrian bridge. Wiedemann Brewery, brew house there. NX Tower, the depot here. This is all gone. View today. This is that L&N track coming in from Wilder. It swung across this bridge here and went down Saratoga over here. Okay, we're looking down Saratoga. Up here at the top, you can see the bridge going over to Cincinnati. By the way, I went to elementary school about right there where you see the arrow moving. That was St. Stephen's. In the back of the school, I had the L&N Railroad. In the front of the school, I had the Green Line streetcars. Heaven, anyway. We got a transfer run coming out of the Cincinnati. I assume it's heading over to Coursey. I won't tell you this, but the talk of the town used to be there, and Bourbon Street was over here, and in back of me was the Brass Ass. Girly places. Newport is cleaned up. Shame on them. Another view. The Newport Depot down here has been closed up. This is the train coming up. This is taken from Newport Catholic High School, where I went to high school at. And you can look down and watch the trains on Saratoga Street. This is all gone now. And this is a green area going down where the train used to go. We're up here on the L&N Bridge going across. It was actually built by the Pennsylvania Railroad, but because the Pennsylvania didn't come across, locals called it the L&N. You can't see it, but hanging out here is a shelf, and the streetcars went across. Here you can see a span holding the streetcar lines. This part here was for the cars. This was for the streetcars coming back to Newport. This is for the railroad, and this was the shelf for the streetcars going across. This is now a pedestrian bridge, the whole thing. Oops, wrong way. We're coming into Cincinnati. Now the train comes across, makes a 90-degree curve. It was a 90-degree curve. I can't believe you. And this is the L&N Depot down here. And up above it is the Pennsylvania Passenger Depot. There is the Pennsylvania Depot, L&N Depot Freight House. It was actually L&N Pennsylvania Freight House back in there. This is where we're going to offload our train. This is all gone, and this is now Salyers Park over in Cincinnati. The Cincinnati dinner train comes in and stops up about here and then pulls back to Oakley where it loads. Our curve coming in, just off to the left here is where Butler Street is, and our milk cans are going to line up. There they are being offloaded, standing on the dock. Use your imaginations, guys. That's not New York Central up there. That's L&N. They've been brought up to Tri-State, being loaded and running in. Whoops, looks like our Tri-State workers have taken a little break. The cans are being inspected, being dumped and weighed. They're being cleaned out. The milk has been churned into butter. It's being loaded aboard a train to go off to the market. Some more butter being loaded on. Now we're going to send our empty back to Frankfurt on train 31 at 8:20 a.m. in the morning. We're up at the Mount Adams, looking down here. When I was a kid, they would have paid you $100 to take any one of these houses off your hand up in Mount Adams. I don't think there's a house in Mount Adams for less than 1.1 million today. It's been gentrified up there. This is part of the streetcar route that came up here. I was fortunate enough as a kid to ride the Mount Adams incline. One of the few people who can say that. It closed in 1947. This was the Bellevue Beach over here. This was a high-class area to go swimming. You're swimming in the Ohio River, straight line of pipes coming in the Ohio River. Man, you must have been awful tough to survive. Anyway, we're loading our empty milk cans on board the train. And we're going to head down to Paris. We're going to arrive there at 10:38. And our section is going to be cut off from the train and head for Lexington at 10:45. There's our Paris depot. Whoa, look at this. A can got misrouted. It was supposed to move on the Queen and Crescent, and then by the Frankfurt and Cincinnati to H.C. Hagen at Georgetown, Kentucky. Well, fortunately, the Frankfurt and Cincinnati stops at Paris, Kentucky. So we're just going to move this can over onto the F&C at Paris instead of loading it on the F&C at Georgetown. Oh, well. There's a close-up of it. The Q and C, Queen and Crescent. As you know, there's no actual Queen and Crescent Railroad. That was an advertising gimmick used. It was an amalgamation of four railroads, one being the Cincinnati, New Orleans, and Texas Pacific. That can is over in Chad Hartpole's house. I don't know if any of you have ever been to Chad's house to see his collection of railroad stuff. I love taking my wife there and saying, "Look, Angel, look, it could be a hell of a lot worse." Okay. He had his house specially built, and that section of the house is reinforced so he can have his signal there, his lantern collection, his tool collection, his milk can collection, and a whole bunch of other things. They are on display through the end of this month. Part of it is at the Georgetown Scott County Museum, if you get over there. Okay. We're going to depart Lexington from the depot. Over. And we're going to arrive in Frankfurt at 5:45. We're going to be loaded aboard the Kentucky Traction Terminal at 6:23. And we're going to arrive at McKee. Now, this is a different McKee than the McKee over at Midway. Confusing. There's our depot, our watchman's shanty down here. When the train comes in town, he's going to come out here with a sign. There's one in back of us. There's our Kentucky Traction and Terminal. Travel and ship by Interurban. There he is, dropping the milk cans off at the siding alongside the Interurban rails. There's our contented cows waiting for that can to show up. There's the farmer's wife milking the cows to fill those empty cans that have come back. And thank you for joining me for this trip of a milk can to market and back home. Hope you enjoyed it.
I sure did. Russell here. A couple of questions. First question is on one of the first drawing slides there that you had of all the dairy farms, let's just say east of the Mississippi. I noticed that in New York State.
There's the big donut. That's the mountains up there.
Yeah.
That's the mountains.
I'm sorry, what's that?
That's at the Rock Mountains up there, wherever they are.
Okay. All right. Well, that's what I was thinking, but it just seemed to be such a circle where you have the Adirondacks going, or whatever you want, parts, whatever you want to call them, on the Appalachians, going all the way up the state. I was just kind of thinking that why that one little hole, but okay, that's what I was kind of thinking. Second question is, obviously, like when the empties are washed out and ready to be loaded to come back home, did they try to on the cars? Did they try to group them and to where they're going to be dropped off? Because it seemed like even back then it would be kind of hard to see some of the markings on the can of what what farm they were from, or is it just because the pictures that you had are old pictures and they were very easy to see back then, or what?
Well, my understanding was you worked by carload. So you took the one carload off and you emptied those, cleaned them out. So you weren't mixing carload with carload. So you had, I'm assuming cans went elsewhere occasionally, but supposedly they were unloaded in blocks. A carload blocks unloaded, they're cleaned, and then they're sent back over to be reloaded to go back where they came from.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. But I mean, it seemed like, well, we had one car, but especially once we got a little bit south or west of Cincy, there were, say, maybe I don't know, maybe a dozen were dropped off here, 8 or 10 dropped off there, or did I misunderstand?
Your baggage car guy had to work. That's about all I can say.
Okay.
I imagine it was a very tough job.
Yeah, well,
to do that. You're pulling in the depot. You got a very short time to unload. So I guess he's working his tail off the whole way down. He's not resting between depots because he's got to move everything up to the door and get ready to offload it. And then, of course, the depot agent's most probably going to throw some other stuff on board his car. And I would have loved to see how those guys worked that.
Yeah, and myself being a New York Central guy, I did not have to use my imagination on that slide. That was a New York Central car.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of that, again, I think you said we take place about 1929 on this. So when did they have, like the Central and other railroads, have a specific milk car
The
where?
they had those from 1900 to about 1950 when the truckers took it all over.
Okay,
So you have slowly the truckers are taking it over, and as the roads get better and better, uh, it's moving to the trucks because the truck's coming right to your farm. So you're loading the truck right at your farm, and also you got what's happening is the guy with the 3 to 10 cow herd is disappearing, and
yeah,
you're moving to the guys with the 40 to 50 to 60 cow herd. I call him uncle. He was actually my mother's uncle. He ran a dairy farm down in Indiana. He had 40 some cows he milked. And that poor guy, I mean, he worked 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because those cows had to be milked, you know.
Yeah.
And if he wanted to go anywhere, he got his neighbor to take care of it. And if the neighbor wanted to go anywhere, then he took care of the neighbor's
yeah.
cows.
Well, is it my understanding that the milk car, when they had milk cars, instead of putting them, say, like in a baggage, uh, compartment car, that they were insulated, so the milk didn't have to be iced uh, like they are in some of your slides there, where they're going in
Yeah.
the baggage
Yeah.
car.
Yeah, they were some of the cars they're doing even a little bit opposite. They are heating them in the wintertime
Mhm.
to make sure the milk doesn't freeze on them. So you got both extremes you got to worry about. Making sure it doesn't get warm and making sure it doesn't get too cold.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Well, as a few of you all know, for the last 5 years of my driving career, I hauled milk. If you're ever up above Lafayette, Indiana, there is a giant farming complex up there called Fair Oaks. They have 16 barns, 65,000 cows a day, and they've got a guide center, and then go see it. It's something to see. And yes, milk was good in our tankers for a minimum of 2 days. They were that well insulated. After 2 days, then they had to do some tests, and a lot of times it got sold to Board and Chemical if it was bad.
Charlie, one more question from
Wait a minute, how do I pull out of this thing so I can look at you guys?
Just stop sharing. Should be on your screen. At the top or bottom.
There we are. Okay. Now I feel more comfortable and still look at my screen. Okay, question.
Well, Charlie, I'm looking back through my emails, and I'm not sure if I'm just missing it or we ever did discuss it, but we go ahead and post this on our YouTube channel in a day or two. Can we use this?
Yes. Hey, there was a time that bothered me, and then I was reminded that according to my daughter, in the next 2 seconds I'm going to drop dead, and what is she going to do with all this stuff? So yeah, I'm more than willing to share this knowledge in that, because I've been asked that a couple of times. Where is it? Oh, it's up on your head. Well, when you're gone, then it's gone. So yeah, share it and everything.
Thank you so much.
I would like to ask a semi favor out of you guys. Last year at Bow Rail up in Dayton, Ohio, I did a presentation last year before, December 22, on roller bearings. Some people thought it was good and said, you ought to write that up. So I wrote it up, and it got published in this magazine. Well, the good people out the California Railroad Museum saw it and said, "Hey, that's neat. Could you do a PowerPoint presentation for us?" I said, "Yes." I thought they were going to bring me out to Sacramento, but no, they said just go let me at home. I'm supposed to do it in June. Is your May thing open? And could I use you guys as the test run? I hate to throw something directly at the California Railroad Museum without having run it by somebody.
Well, I'm going to refer that to Ron since he's the man in command. But
Well, Ron can't, NRHS can.
No, you're welcome to come visit us, Charlie, again in May. No problem. Russell take care of it. Russell get with you and schedule it.
Okay, I appreciate that. If I was just doing it for a bunch of gaming people, but I'm doing it to the California Railroad Museum, that sort of sets me on a high. Look, I'm gonna take a sec, tell you a slight story. We were out in California, my wife and I think it's in 92. And we went to the California Railroad Museum. And the only reason I went there was to see the Golden Spike. And I walk up to where the Golden Spike is, and the room's closed off. And this lady comes down and she talks to me for a minute. And I tell, I came all the way here from Kentucky, see the Golden Spike, and you got it closed off. And she said, "Well, I'm sorry, we have to do some renovation in there. Something's going wrong with the alarm system." And I sort of cried. And she said, "Well, come on in with me." So I went in with her, and she gave me a pair of white gloves to wear, and they set the Golden Spike in my hand. Now I know it's not the real Golden Spike, but still, I held the darn thing.
You ran out the door and insured your requirement.
I would have, but they had guys there with guns drawn.
that story kind of sounds like a Chevy Chase vacation story there,
Yeah.
Oh, bribery.
Okay, Charlie. We
Okay.
appreciate your visit
Thank
today.
you guys again. I appreciate you having me.
Well, thanks for your time today. It was a fun talk, as I knew it would be. So thanks again, and I'll write you, and we'll get together on that other presentation.
Okay. That'd be a much nicer picture in back if it was a C&O locomotive.
I'm looking for a New York Central locomotive, like this one.
All right, guys. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. We're adjourned, and goodbye. Thanks for coming out today.